It does get posted on the BAC webpage, which is on the city's webpage, just to let everybody know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, everybody should have received a copy of the minutes. And I had one suggestion, and that was under the community reports. I think Todd had just the second bullet. I think he was referring to Marina Shores. So, and that was in the context of expressed concern that the Planning Commission approved changing a proffer to increase density for the new building. And if that's correct, my suggestion would be to incorporate Marina Shores into that bullet so that it has some context.
Robin, do you want to share the minutes real quick? Because I know Todd's on here and he can attest to what he said.
Mark, you don't have to show them.
Okay.
That's what it was about. I mean, the proffer was the increase in the proffers was for Marina Shores Apartments, so that's fine if you want to add that to it to clarify it.
Okay.
Are there any other suggestions from commission members? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second? Do we have a second?
I'm sorry.
I don't know if we can.
You cannot make a motion. You cannot have a vote unless you have a quorum.
Yeah, I
Okay.
still haven't seen the sixth person come yet, so I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Kay.
We'll just put that to the side and we'll wait for our sixth person.
Okay. So next thing is we have a chairman's report, and Phil and I did not discuss anything to put forward as chairman's report. The next we would have our introductions. I understand we have some guests from the Navy here with us today. So maybe we could start with that. And I believe Ernest, are you on?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Ernest McDonald here on behalf of JB Little Creek.
And are you going to introduce the other guest individually, or are you going to
I was looking through the list to see if there was anybody either called in or on video on the WebEx. And I know we got tentative commitments from our installation commander, Captain Witherspoon. I don't know if he's on the line or if he's on the video feed. And we also got a confirmation from our Deputy Public Works Officer, Hector Ariano. So I don't see either one of them on the feed. So I might be the only one here for now. They might be joining us later.
Okay. And we can do those introductions when they come on.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead through the commission members and we can just introduce ourselves briefly. Did you want to say, Ernest, did you want to say anything more before I get into the other introductions?
No, I didn't really have anything to say. I believe that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting any of the members here in person yet. I'm still waiting for regular meetings to resume, so I look forward to that when it does happen. But I believe I was socialized with you all at the last meeting. So hello again, and I just look forward to working with you. Mark has been great in introducing me and acclimating me to your agendas, and I've just simply kept a watchful eye and hopefully become better informed to where I become a more active participant going forward.
Excellent. Well, I'll go ahead and just for everybody's sake, the commissioners know who I am. I'm the new vice chairman for the BAC. I'm an architect. I lived in Williamsburg for 43 years, moved back to the area to the house that my parents built in 1963 and renovated it. So I'm happy to be back in the Shore Drive corridor. Who's next?
I'll take it. I'm Charlie Marvin, retired, been on the commission for 15 years, and I'll be saying sayonara in about 3 months. And it's been a pleasure to work with everyone in the corridor, and I look forward to a great BAC after my departure.
Charlie left big shoes for me to fill.
You can have it.
Next. Okay. Wally, you're muted.
I'm mute here. How about that?
There you go. Yep.
Okay. Okay, I'm Wally Damon. I live in the Chesapeake Beach section of Virginia Beach here off Shore Drive. I live about 650 feet from the intersection of Shore Drive and Greenwell Road where the fire department is. Lived in Chesapeake Beach, not all of my life, but just about all of my life. So been coming to these meetings for, this will be my 16th year. I've been sitting as a commissioner now for 6 years.
Thank you. Next. Who wants to go? Frank, do you want to? Frank, I should have welcomed you formally to the commission. So as the newest member, you should have had the privilege of being first.
No, I should go last. That's thank you. I'm Frank Rubina. I'm the Vice President of the Virginia Pilots. I've lived in Virginia Beach, all throughout Virginia Beach, various locations since 1995. I presently live off of West Great Neck Road down on Bay Island, and I'm proud to be, or very happy to be here to contribute and to support our community. So thank you for having me.
Well, I live in Bay Island too, so we're neighbors. Who's next? Okay, I think we've had four of us, I believe. Is there, who's the fifth person that's on?
I can go. It's Stacy.
Okay, Stacy.
We got 6 then.
Are we doing like a little introduction? Is
Yep.
that I came on late?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Stacy Shiflett, and I've been on Bayfront Advisory for a really long time. I don't even know how long. And I'm the executive director for the Virginia Beach Restaurant Association and adjunct faculty in the hospitality program at Tidewater Community College. Although I don't live on Shore Drive, I kind of grew up over there at the tennis club, and for 29 years spent more time on Shore Drive than anywhere else at the Virginia Beach Resort. So my heart is Shore Drive.
There you go. Do we have a sixth commissioner that's joined us yet?
Yes, we do now. With Stacy, we have 6, so we can go ahead and approve the minutes. And then I think since there's so many people on, we're just going to have people introduce themselves when they speak.
Okay.
And we'll just go into the items.
But we also want the opportunity to make sure that their presence is noted in the minutes, I think.
Yeah, I've been writing their names down that are shown as participants. I'll have to kind of do some investigative work on the ones that
Okay.
just have one name. But if they do speak, I'll have them do their full name.
Excellent. Okay, so do you want to go forward with the staff reports?
Sure. Do you want to approve the minutes real quick, and then we'll do this?
Oh, that's
Mr.
good. Thank you.
Mark,
Yes.
who is the 6th member? I only got 5 when I counted.
Oh, really?
I mean, we got Magoon, Malvin,
Yep.
Magoon, Malvin, Damon,
Yep.
Stacy, and
Yep.
then, so that gives me 4.
And
We have
Wally?
Charles.
I got Charles Melvin.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. William Hurst. Bill
Okay,
Hurst
Mr.
is on here.
Hurst.
You got
Is that-
Frank.
And then the newest member is here too, Frank.
Frank. Thank you. Just trying to keep us all legal. My other thought is, please do not use the chat feature. It kind of gets us all in trouble with FOIA when we do virtual meetings and use the chat feature. Do not use the chat feature. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I believe we had, Charlie, I believe you made a motion to approve, and I think Wally seconded.
Okay, sorry.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, we'll go on to the staff updates, and I'll just go really quick. I sent,
Hey, Mark,
yes,
to make Kay happy, we probably should all vote. We had a motion and a second, so all in favor, raise their hands. Okay, we're good. Oh, now.
okay. I just sent out a briefing about a week ago, different things that are occurring, so I'll just go through really fast to get the meeting moving. The Marina Shore Apartments were approved by City Council on the 16th of March. And the 7-Eleven that's at Shore and Pleasure House will be going to council on April 20th. Also, the short-term rental ordinance and overlays will be going April 20th, unless that's changed. Okay, could let me know if that's changed. The other big thing is next Tuesday on the 23rd, the city manager will be presenting the budget, which includes the capital budget. And that has that item for the Shore Drive corridor plan and design guidelines update. So we should know if that's still in the manager's budget on Tuesday. We've had a few pre-submittals for relatively small developments within different areas of the Bayfront. I gave you one for a 3-story multifamily development at 3708 DuPont Circle, and that will need a rezoning and use permit. There's a 3-story duplex at 2416 Seaview, which doesn't need a rezoning, so that's more of an FYI item. New duplex with driveway on Coronet Avenue, 4500 48502, that's a FYI. And then I previously sent you what was on the Chesapeake Bay Board and the Board of Zoning Appeals, but for the sake of time, I think we'll move to the committee reports.
Okay. The design review didn't have a report to make. We have no projects in front of us, only the identification signage for the overture. So there's no report there. Communications is vacant, but do we have any communications information that we need to share?
No, I'm just in the process of updating everything with our newest member, so it's pretty much being handled by staff.
And then Charlie, public safety. Charlie, you're muted.
How about now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, thanks. Traffic engineering is going to do a traffic study at Lynn Haven and North Great Neck for a traffic signal. And they will be studying traffic volumes for 8 hours, crash records for the past 5 years, and compile all this information and see if it meets federal guidelines for a traffic signal. If so, they will develop a proposal and present the funding to the city for their approval. Also, I went through the Pearl on Sunday just to get a flavor for the cars that were in there to see if I could gauge what the occupancy was. I have no idea what the occupancy is of the buildings, but there was an awful lot of cars parked in there. So they must be getting pretty close to filling her up. And with that, I have nothing else, Mr. President. Mr. Vice Chairman, excuse me.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on to assume Dan is available to go through the Shore Drive sand replenishment update.
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Bob. Can y'all hear me? Everyone can hear me? I'm joined with Jim White from our office. Jim is a coastal engineer and the project manager for the Bay Beach Restoration CIP. And if I'd like to share my screen, if I'm able to do so, I've got a slide presentation. We wanted to go over the opportunity to obtain sand for Bay Beach nourishment with the Port of Virginia Deepening Project and update the commission and participants on that. And so let me make the request to share here. Okay. Can y'all see the screen?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see, back in FY 17-18, council adopted the Bay Beaches Restoration CIP, and we embarked on permitting and developing plans for Ocean Park Beach restoration. That project went out to bid last year. Bids came in extraordinarily high. It was an unawardable contract. At that time, we decided we were aware of an opportunity of a more economical sand source with the Port of Virginia Harbor Deepening Project. So we embarked on a course of action to, instead of rebidding the project, to partner up with this project and try to get a very large volume of sand placed economically on Ocean Park Beach. So we got the Ocean Park Beach permitted in a record time. It was right under a year, which is unheard of in I think beach nourishment permitting. And we were also working on obtaining permits for a restoration project over on Cape Henry Beach. We completed the first Bay Beach restoration project of Chesapeake Beach back in 2018. And that was the first true Bay Beach restoration project. Before that, the only sand placement that occurred on the Bay Beaches was from the Lynn Haven Inlet Federal Dredging Project. And we alternated placement sites between Ocean Park Beach and Cape Henry Beach. This photo here, I just wanted to point out, this was taken in 2013, right after one of those Lynn Haven Inlet dredging placement activities. Beach was very wide, and if you notice the vegetated dune line feature, where that is in proximity to the structures, you can actually see that the dunes were eroded just prior to that placement activity. So this presentation was the same one given to City Council and shared with members of the community back in September of last year. So I've gone through and just updated and highlighted new information. The Norfolk Harbor Deepening Channel Project, the current phase is ongoing inside of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel Complex. There's non-beach quality sand in that segment. I believe most of that material is going to either Craney Island or perhaps the offshore disposal site that's located down off of Sandbridge Beach. Early coordination with the Port of Virginia indicated approximately 600,000 cubic yards at minimum was thought to be available, with a potential of up to 1.5 million cubic yards. They've since done additional geotechnical exploration and are confident there's about 800,000 cubic yards of beach quality sand available. And at that point, they were indicating a dredging contract start date of late 2021. And then we won't talk too much about Atlantic Ocean Channel. That is a future opportunity that'll generate a much larger volume of sand for the Bay Beaches and perhaps another slug of sand for the Bay Beaches. Project milestones at that time, and this is still very much on schedule. They completed sediment sampling last year and actually did some additional sampling earlier this year. They have project under design and review. They've got a Section 103 concurrence in March. I'm not even sure what that entails. They are still on schedule for advertisement around July 2021. And they were indicating a dredging start of November 2021. That doesn't mean beach placement was planned to start on that date, but they would start the dredging contract to begin dredging this blue segment of channel. The contract is going to give the contractor some flexibility on whether how they execute the project. That gives the best bid price. If you make the project too restrictive and dictate their means and method of attack, you're going to increase contractor risk, make the project less attractive. So if they start up front where the beach quality sand is, the placement will happen earlier in their schedule. If they start in a segment where there is not beach quality sand, then it would occur later in the schedule. And we'll talk more about schedule in just a bit. Of course, you all know where your beaches are located. Our highest priority beach for placement is Ocean Park Beach. We feel like that's last received sand from the Lynn Haven Inlet Dredging Project in 2013. And then our restoration design template is estimating a need of about 310,000 cubic yards to restore Ocean Park Beach to our design template. Second priority for placement from this project would be Cape Henry Beach, 2 miles of shoreline. It was last nourished in summer of 2019 from the Lynn Haven Inlet Dredging Project. That template, design template, requires about 245,000 cubic yards to fill. Chesapeake Beach, we do not at this time think that we're going to be placing sand from the harbor deepening on Chesapeake Beach. It's currently in good shape. Things have turned around quite a bit over the years. Chesapeake Beach used to be the most narrow and vulnerable segment of the Bay Beaches. It was routinely subject to wave attack, property damages were occurring, infrastructure damages were occurring. So it was at that before this nourishment project the top priority. Okay, the advantages of partnering with the harbor deepening project versus rebidding the Ocean Park project as a standalone project is cost savings and schedule. We don't really think we were going to be able to accelerate the project delivery schedule. One lesson we learned from that bid was our performance period was probably too restrictive. Which made the project more risky and less attractive to bidders. So what most dredging and beach restoration projects are now doing, because the industry is so busy, is they're allowing the period of performance to be much larger than the actual time it's going to be required to do the work. So that way the bidders can fit the project into their bid schedule and obtain a better bid price. But short story long, we think we can get this sand placed on the beaches at about 50% of the cost it would be if the city was contracting and dredging from a city source of sand. Again, the current estimate on available volume stands at 800,000 cubic yards. Some disadvantages. First bullet item, material quality. We're much more comfortable now about the quality of material based on the additional geotechnical work. Of course, you never know exactly what the quality of material is until you extract it and can look at it and place it. But we're very comfortable that there's 800,000 cubic yards of beach quality sand available. A couple of caveats. The Port of Virginia, and the sake of regionalism, has also offered up to the Navy and the city of Norfolk opportunity to participate in the project. Norfolk has identified a need and willingness to obtain up to 400,000 cubic yards. However, they've not secured funding, and to my knowledge, they have not started their permitting effort. So we do not think that they are going to receive that, but we don't know yet. So what that means is our current estimate on what may be available for the Bay Beaches is between 400,000 cubic yards and 800,000 cubic yards. That's a very wide range. If it's 400,000, we would place, we'd start on Ocean Park Beach, and that should be enough to complete that project completely. And if there's a substantial additional volume available, we would place the remaining portion on Cape Henry Beach. And then at that time, if there's a need to place additional sand on Cape Henry, we would look at our sand reserves at Maple Street and the Lynn Haven stockpile to complete that or continue that to the extent available. Another disadvantage is that we're not the contracting agency, so we are subject to the Port of Virginia's project schedule and placement schedule. Next steps, and these were at, as of fall of last year, was to for Virginia Beach to update our permits to allow for beach placement of the channel dredging sand. So we've permit applications have been submitted for agency review. We had to modify our Chesapeake Beach and Ocean Park permits to allow placement from the channel. They were previously permitted to obtain sand from the nearshore shoal just east of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, same shoal that we obtained the sand for the Chesapeake Beach project. And we had submitted a new JPA for our Cape Henry Beach placement project. Memorandum of agreement with between the city and Port of Virginia has been executed. And the schedule, again, they are still indicating they're on track for July 2021 contract advertisement. Have not ruled out a project start of November 2021, but it is still tentative. A lot of things could impact that schedule. And the MOU, actually the memorandum of agreement became a memorandum of understanding, and the ports updated their schedule with that document, and they've indicated, I mean, they're still on track for items 1, 2, and 3. Item 4, they've got a August 22nd Chesapeake Bay beaches replenished milestone, and we take that as the a conservative completion date for the entire dredging project, that entire blue channel we looked at. Like I say, if contractor starts where the beach quality sand is, that would be completed sooner. If it's at the end of that contract period, it would be later. And this is based on probably a 9-month. They haven't determined or indicated to us whether how long their contract duration is, but I'm assuming it's 9 months based on the schedule. So 9 months is the end of their period of performance for all of the dredging work, whether it's beach placement or offshore placement. So at that time, the staff recommendation and concurrence we were seeking from council was to seek permission to enter into the MOA, which has been done, and to seek concurrence to partner with the Port of Virginia versus going back out for a standalone bid. Other than us increasing our period of performance, there really was no expectation that we were going to see or realize substantial cost savings. So this partnership is our best opportunity to get a critical mass of sand placed on the bay beaches at an economical price. Now we're very aware of the erosion conditions that have been going on. We had last winter during the spring, we had a pretty significant nor'easter, had some erosion and dune loss. This winter has been relentless. We've not had a significant storm event, definitely not a historical one, but we've had a large number of events, and the repetitive back-to-back storms have taken the toll on the dune system. We did put the drone up last week and got some current imagery of Ocean Park Beach. Again, this area in the westerly direction has historically been stable. At Bay Lake Beach is really a nodal point. It's not accretional or erosional. It's very stable. Chesapeake Beach is moderately erosional, further towards the Bay Bridge Tunnel. And then as you get down towards the Lesnar Bridge, it's moderately erosional. But you can see still have a healthy dune field despite the scarping and the erosion between the low water and the structures. Less as you head further down towards Lesnar Bridge. Another shot looking the other direction, showing how narrow the beach is up to the condos and the bulkheaded structures, but still some, not as much as there was dune structure left, but we don't feel at this time there is a need to move the stockpile sand over here for a couple of reasons. We only have about 50,000 cubic yards available at the Lynn Haven DMMA and about 15,000 cubic yards of sand over at Maple Street. So certainly not enough to spread along the beach and make any significant impact or storm damage reduction benefit if we spread it along. So we want to hold that sand in reserve, like I said, to either after the harbor deepening project is completed and use that to complete that project, or if we get into a situation where there is an imminent threat to damage to structures, either before or after that project, we would reconsider that course of action. Moving over to Cape Henry Beach, again, the area closest to the Cape had been somewhat accretional in past decades. We have been experiencing more erosion the last 10 or 15 years along the western part of Cape Henry, eastern part of Cape Henry Beach. Moving towards the west, it becomes more erosional as you approach the inlet. But still, a lot of wide dune field in this area, still a pretty high level of protection. You can see some overwash from the storm events up in the lower part of the dune field. And another thing I wanted to point out is we deliberately take these photos at low tide so we can see where the mean low water feature is, and also show where the high water line is. And we're able to see some of the sandbar features. A lot of the sand that erodes from the dune system is drug out into the bar system. I mean, it takes many, many years and decades for the dunes to grow, but what takes 10 years to grow can be lost in a single storm event. But a lot of that material doesn't just wash out into the bay and is lost from the system. It hangs out in the bar system, and then with the more general wave action, like you see here, that slowly starts to migrate back onto the beach and weld itself back onto the beach berm. A little more critical as we head down towards the inlet. We've got beach access stairs that encroach pretty far out beyond the dune field that are now at the water's edge. And we've got a drainage structure located here that's very vulnerable. And the very narrow section of beach down in this area. So soon to come is a beach restoration project that'll look similar to this for Ocean Park and Cape Henry beaches, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to deliver this project to the Bay beaches. So with that, I will close the screen and take any questions.
Do we have any questions from the commission members?
Sure,
None.
Mr. Roberts, I have a quick question.
Okay.
Any of the sand been earmarked inside of or south of the Lesnar Bridge? I know it may not be of a large volume, but there's quite a bit of shoaling that's in there that the Army Corps has looked at, Coast Guard, we've all looked at together. And I know it's on their project list to do something about certain areas in there, but didn't know if it was part of the equation at all, and if it even amounted to much.
It is, Frank. That's a good question. Good to see you again, by the way. We've been working with Chris Tolson at the Army Corps. They are trying to get the Army Corps dredge Merton back in the Lynn Haven Basin in mid-April. There's a lot of shoaling along the entrance channel where it was a few months ago, and there's some shoaling right off of your docks as the near the turning basin area, and there's just a pockmarked area of shoaling throughout the turning basin. So their plan is to, and there's some very severe shoaling that's at this time. There's some areas where we have less than 2 feet of water in the Broad Bay Channel. So I'll let Chris. We'll have to reach out to Chris for some more information, but they were trying to get the Merton back in there for an event in April. That goes on their hopper dredge and is placed offshore of the Ocean Park disposal area. So that material, it won't have any direct effect on the beach other than it'll add material to the offshore bar system, may slowly migrate back onto the beach. And then they were planning another visit with the Currituck, I believe, in May to address any additional shoaling that the Murden doesn't accomplish in April.
Thanks, Mr. Adams. Always appreciate talking to you and all your help.
As well, thank you.
Do we have any other commission questions? Mark, should we wait until the end of the meeting to solicit questions from non-commission members? Or,
Normally, we do it after the item. We did go out of order for the other applicants, so I guess I'm not sure how many questions we're going to get, but we may want to do virtual hands. So it might be best to do it since Dan just finished his presentation to get the questions now.
okay.
But I think we should ask if they could raise their virtual hands because there's a lot of people that don't have video, and it might be easier to regulate the questions. I see one from Janet.
Yep. Should I go ahead?
Unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. It was a very interesting presentation, and there was an article recently in the paper about the potential for the restoration. I guess it was featuring the recent erosion from storms right near the Lesnar Bridge. And the very final paragraph said something about dune restoration as well. So not just sand on the beaches, but actually it sounded like there might be plans for dune restoration. I was wondering if any of that is included.
Yeah, on our ocean park plans, where there's existing dune field, we're currently showing just a widening of the beach berm, and down towards the more eastern part of the project, where the dune field's very narrow, we're going to do some restoration of the dune there, and similar on Cape Henry Beach. On the eastern section where there's currently a healthy dune field, we're just going to be doing a berm widening in front of the bulkheads where there is no where there currently is no dune feature. We're going to be adding a dune feature at that location. Now, as we move towards the inlet, there's very little room for a dune field and a beach berm. So the beach berm and the dune fields will taper and narrow as we approach the inlet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Dan, this report is posted where?
I don't believe it's posted on the city website, but we can make it available to the group.
Okay.
And
I know I'd like to be able to access a copy of the report, and probably members of the public would also like to.
Sure.
Mark, I think Todd Solomon has his hand up.
Okay. You ready, Todd?
Yes, I'm ready. Thanks. Todd Solomon, president of the Shore Drive Community Coalition, also a member of Cape Story by the Sea Civic Association. Just a couple quick questions. My first one being, it sounds like we're going to move the sand spoil site from Lynn Haven Boat Ramp and Maple Street to finish off possibly next year's on the Cape Henry side. I'm curious, is that an in-house project? I assume it is, or is it going to be bid out? And if it's an in-house project, why we wouldn't be able to do that in-house to kind of save Ocean Park Beach now? Because we're still kind of in a quasi zone of not knowing, maybe it'll be another year before maybe sand gets put on that. So, I mean, if we're all planning to do that in-house, why couldn't 150,000 cubic yards of sand takes up half of Ocean Park, from what your status showed 300,000. So I mean, it would even at least protect the areas right there around the inlet, which at high tide, it's against their bulkhead. So just curious, Dan, you might be able to answer that. And also, has the city in the past has had a dredge and had the equipment to do in-house sand replenishment. I know we got away from that, but if it turns out that these companies are so busy and so expensive, maybe in the long run, maybe we go back to purchasing and having our own in-house equipment where we can run it every year. And now that we've got all the sandbars identified off-site on Cape Henry, they can run those once a year, every year, and just kind of pump that sand onto it and keep it in-house and save the money, since it's going to be 2 or 3 times as expensive as we're bidding out.
Yeah. First question, the sand stockpile, this harbor deepening sand, we call this around the office the sand of opportunity, because it really, if it pans out, it's going to be the goose that laid the golden egg in terms of getting cost-effective sand on the bay beaches. The stockpile is our sand of last resort, and we want to keep that in reserve until there is and this is debatable, folks. Some folks will say, well, there's a critical need now, but from our monitoring of the beach over many, many years, it has been in this condition before. And although we have had structural damage in the past at Chesapeake Beach routinely, before that restoration project, and the last major storm when the beach was, as lean as I've seen it, was after the twin nor'easters. I believe that was around 2002. There was some damage on the Bayfront beaches, Cape Henry and Ocean Park. But right now, we want to keep that sand in reserve until we absolutely have to use it to protect structures from damage. We don't think that right now that that situation exists. That could change if we get a storm that and the conditions deteriorate. We'll definitely reconsider that. But right now, we want to keep that sand in reserve. And once we find out exactly how much will be available from the harbor deepening project and it gets placed, then we'll evaluate and make a decision on do we need to haul sand from Maple and Lynn Haven to complete that work, or did the project reach its goals, and do we still keep that in reserve for a future need? At some point in time, we have to evacuate both of those dredge management areas and stockpiles to make room for future dredging projects. I hope that answers your question. We really want to hold on to that, identify exactly where the critical need is, and use it only when it's absolutely necessary to use it. And that would be either a bid truck haul, or it would be done with the cities under an annual service contract, which was a contract secured under a bid process, but it would be a work order issued for that. The city doesn't have enough trucks and equipment to move that with in-house forces. And the second part of your question was in-house dredging. I'm not aware of the city ever doing any in-house dredging in the Lynn Haven Basin. We've done bypass dredging at Rudy Inlet for a number of years, and that is simply a bypass dredge. It's a river class dredge. It works in the sand trap. It cannot work in any kind of seas or wave action greater than a foot. So the city does not have a dredge capable of doing beach restoration and nourishment. That is a whole order of magnitude higher level of dredge and equipment required for that.
Grady, Paul, did you have a question or a statement? Can you hear me? Grady, did you want to speak?
Mark, if you can't hear him right now, I think Wallace has his hand up also.
Okay.
And MC after that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if my question is for Dan or for Kay, but I want to speak about the right of us spreading sand on private property like Cape Henry Towers Beach or the Chesapeake Square, Chesapeake House, as opposed to private property. public access. You know, in 2014, you know, I went to circuit court and I had to testify for the city that we had used, you know, for 60 years, we had used Chesapeake Beach as public access. So are we supposed to pay as citizens, are we supposed to pay for sand to be put on these beaches that are not public beaches? Okay, I guess that part of my question is for you. And how in the world can we determine where it's public and where it's private? And how do you keep it from spilling over? I mean, it seems like a pretty strange thing to try to do and try to do right without step on somebody's toes, you know?
We are only placing sand on public beach. We do not place sand on private beaches.
Our agreement with the Corps or whoever we're in agreement with, who's getting the sand to us, our agreement with them says we will only put it on a public beach. And I should tell you that all beaches in the city of Virginia Beach are public. That's the standard position.
Well,
Okay.
that's when I was at the hotel, we had to sign over an easement because we own the land to the water, and we had to sign over the easement to get the sand. But we had to sign the agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we have all real estate rights for sand placement, and it all goes either on city-owned land, a city easement, or beaches that the courts have declared public. The only area that's still in question along the Bay beaches is a little sliver of Bay Lake Beach. Really not an issue because Bay Lake is somewhat stable. But we think it's a public beach, but that issue hasn't been resolved. So we don't place sand in front of Bay Lake Beach.
You guys.
Any other questions? I think you said, does Grady still have a question?
Grady is the agent for the presentation one for the overture. So I guess we can finish the sand and then move to that, but I'm not sure if he has mic capability.
Okay. It appears he's muted.
Robin, can you unmute him again?
I've been requesting unmute. He was, there we go.
Grady, are you good?
Hey, all, this is Robbie Roach with Kimley Horn. If Grady can't speak, we've got Jamie too on the line. We're working with Grady on the signage design and the engineering landscape plan for it. So if he can't speak, we can kind of walk through that if you guys are ready for that.
Hi, this is MC. Can you hear me? I had my hand raised. No?
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. I'm going back to the sand. I obviously, and all of us have listened to the sand replacement for years about public-private and when and where and how and whether we had a dredge or whether we didn't have a dredge. I walk those beaches every day, as do many of you. And the beach there by Lesnar Bridge really needs some replacement. And I just feel like we keep hearing the same things over and over. And the nor'easter, which was 2009, really sheared the bridge, and they've not really fully recovered. I feel the need for those folks over there that really right up against the bulkheads. Sure, looking over, even it's not really the sand pile that's over there in sight. Certainly, you know, it's like, God, why can't we do something? So I would encourage to see if we could find some sand beaches several years ago back.
MC, you're fading out.
Okay. So I was Can you hear me? I was just saying that I really feel that we need to look at a way to try to get some sand to the ocean park, where the sand is against the bulkheads when the high tides come. They have been waiting for quite some time, as we all have, but I just think 2022, we can do better than that.
Is that a question for Dan?
Can't we do better than 2022 to get the sand? I guess. Okay, I'm done.
Well, again, there, I agree. That beach is very narrow. Historically, it has been as narrow as it is now. It's not, but it is in rough shape. We just there's a seawall in front of the new condos, and there's still a substantial amount of dune left to protect the property moving west. So we don't feel that right now we want to pay the premium and use that sand of last resort to give us a little bit more beach and a little bit more protection. We just don't. That probably is not the most cost effective use of that resource right now. No, that's we're going to continue to monitor it. We don't walk the beach every day, but our office has people on the beach after every big storm, and at least monthly. We do twice a year surveys, beach profiles every 100 feet along the shoreline, and we closely monitor the beach condition. But we will, and we're going to continue to do that. And if it deteriorates further, like I said, we'll reconsider that course of action.
Okay, Todd Solomon has his hand up.
Sorry, real quick, it was a follow-up, and Dan started answering the question. As far as emergency use, could you define that? It sounded like you were starting to talk about impacting seawalls and completely wiping out dunes is my assumption. That would be emergency use. As far as having space in the summertime to actually lay on the beach instead of lay in the water, that's not a big deal. But I guess what's your definition of emergency sand replenishment use? So what would designate that? Right now, some of those dunes are 50% gone. I mean, it's an 8 foot high scallop out of them. So I'm just curious what the city determines emergency. And just on a second note, I don't think you'd ever use that sand to extend what the Corps or the Virginia the port's going to do, because when you did the last Cape Henry replenishment on for Cape Henry Beach there, we didn't connect it. It stopped at Seagate, so you didn't use that sand to continue it on. So I wouldn't think you'd use it to do next year either. So I assume you just keep it in a reserve for safety processes. But again, what is your threshold for safety?
Dan, you're muted.
Sorry about that. You're right, Todd. I'll answer the second part first. When we did the last Lynn Haven Inlet dredging and placed sand in 2019 on Cape Henry, number one, we didn't get as much sand from the project as we had hoped. Contractor was not as aggressive as we wanted. There was an additional 1 foot that they weren't required to dredge, but they could have dredged and got paid for it. But they were they had other projects that they needed to move their equipment to, so they met their contract requirements, and we did not get as much sand on Cape Henry as we had hoped. The reason why we didn't move sand from the stockpiles at that time is we didn't have a lot there at that time, and the dune field and that area didn't really need any sand. Now, when we placed sand on Cape Henry 2 cycles prior, we ran short, and we did use the sand haul to complete the work and add material to the eastern part of Cape Henry Beach. But right now, the eastern part of Cape Henry Beach is solid. It's well protected. It does not really need a significant amount of nourishment, at least from a truck haul. If we get cheap economical sand from the harbor deepening, we're going to put as much sand as we can put on the beach, even if it's not a critical need. What's an emergency? Well, you're right. It's not when a dune structure or a seawall are threatened, because dunes are there to be eroded and to provide protection to the upland structures, and the seawall is there to do the same. An emergency is when an occupied dwelling is an imminent threat of damage or collapse. So
Does that answer the question, Todd?
Yes, yeah, thank you. And I wasn't saying that the east side of Cape Henry Beach needed sand, because I understand that point. My point was, why would we take all that sand and throw it at the end of the Port of Virginia's work? Because it doesn't need the sand. That's my whole point. Is we're not gonna use it next year. We're not gonna add it on to the port's sand replenishment on that, because it's not an emergency, and it'd be foolish to keep adding it on there when, like you just said, we don't need it. So it's
Correct.
going to sit there. It's going to sit there for a couple more years, and we're just thinking maybe it would help shore up the areas right around that inlet there now. That was my only point. But thanks
Yeah.
for explaining that.
Sure.
Dan,
Yeah,
just
Dean.
out of curiosity, Dan, do you fly the drone after major weather events up and down the beach?
You know, we used to fly the police helicopter before an incoming hurricane or major storm event. Very expensive, burns a lot of fuel, and the program had to pay for that. So now with the drone technology, we're going to be utilizing that. And like I said, we do hydrographic surveys in the spring and fall, and our plan is to put the drone up to coincide with those survey dates. So we've got survey data documented, and then we also have the visual aerial photography to go with that. And then in addition to that, we're out on the beach very often taking land-based photo documentation.
Okay. Good.
Nadine Kostenbader has her hand up.
I do. Can you hear me? Okay. My question is, with the beach restoration that was done at Chesapeake Beach, has there been an opportunity to do any measurement to see how much difference that has or has not made in accretion or dune level, etc.?
Yeah, the beach nourishment doesn't really have an effect on erosion rates. That's more of a subject of wave energy and the wave climate. And we do survey it, and we've lost some material since the original placement, as expected, and the dunes are growing as expected. I don't have a volume to quantify that off the top of my head, but yes, we are seeing accretion in the dune field. It's growing, becoming more vegetated. The recreational beach berm is narrowing, and we are planned to renourish that, I believe, in 2025. We're on a 3 to 4 year cycle based on actual conditions, and we'll be going back to that offshore shoal when the need arises for Chesapeake Beach renourishment. We call our first big restoration of a beach the restoration project, and then our follow-on placements are renourishment activities.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Bob, I don't see any more hands up, so I think we should maybe move to the other item. And Robbie Roach is going to speak instead of Grady on that item. And if Robbie can be unmuted, are you able to share the information on the screen? But we have it here if you need it.
Well, let me just thank Dan for that presentation, because I thought it was very informative, and so it brought me up to speed. And if it can be posted, made available to members of the commission and to people who are on this call, that would be wonderful. And I do apologize to the Overture signage. I just skipped right over, and but I'm sure that they enjoyed the sand replenishment conversation, since it impacts them too. So yes, let's move on to the Overture signage.
Thanks all. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, definitely interested to hear about the restoration of the beach, so especially for our client here.
Yeah,
it's an essential amenity, right? So
that's right.
I'm gonna play Grady here. So I'm just a landscape architect and work for an engineering firm who's doing a lot of work along Shore Drive here. So we're happy to help the client out here with some of this signage and improvements and wayfinding. Just a little background history for everybody. Can you see my screen or no?
You'll have to,
Not yet.
you have to
Yeah,
hit share at the top. Yeah.
All right, let me share the screen. See that. And we also should have Jamie on the line too, who's with Benson in the signage design. So when we get into the actual materials of the design, I'm hoping he could chime in. If not, I can kind of walk through the current design. But the client has recently purchased the Bouchard property here, which is I'm not sure if you've all been able to review some of this or not, but it's the kind of the corner parcel here. If you can see the screen, we've gone through several reiterations of trying to get a just a ground-mounted monument sign at this location. It's very hard at the intersection here at Shore Drive and Cherry Tree Place to kind of understand what the approach is, where are you going, if you're a resident of the Overture Apartments or some of the apartments further along there at Shore Drive. So essentially, we're just looking to get a monument type sign that is visible from the intersection, but that isn't too obstructive. We've gone through some reiterations of location, and what you see here in the bottom left is not where we are currently proposing it. We had met with the city and the arborist and determined we definitely don't want to impact the existing live oaks that are out there. So that was a good thing. But since we've purchased this property, we've now are shifting gears and hoping to get this sign a little closer to Shore Drive. And this is the latest plan here that you're looking at now. So it's set back enough, but there's should be good visibility from the intersection and give you more of a destination sense of arrival as you turn into Cherry Tree Place of kind of what this building is and the apartments. We're currently obviously looking to amend the CUP. I just wanted to point out that currently it's would only be allowed to be located way further away from the intersection and just wouldn't serve its purpose of identifying kind of where you're going and where your destination is if you're meant to go to the apartments. So I'll get into some of the, I don't know, Jamie, are you on to just kind of walk through kind of what the sign colors and design is?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a fairly simple monument sign made out of aluminum. It has dimensional copy on it. I don't show any footing details here, but there would be a footing obviously to need to be put in place to install the sign. I think they proposed the sign for probably over a year or so now, so this has been kind of going on for a while. So I'm new to the project, so I'm working, just trying to get up to speed like everyone else to see where this falls, if we can get it approved and manufactured. If anyone has any specific questions about how it's fabricated or made, I'd be happy to entertain those.
So I don't know if that gives you all enough overview, kind of just the intent of the sign. There would be, I think if you look at this view too, it's the location, proposed location is kind of nice because it's going to be kind of in this location here at ground level, so it's not high up, but it's going to help kind of screen some of the equipment and transformer generator stuff that's going on behind here. You know, there'll be some nice landscaping around the sign, and hoping that, you know, creates a nice little feature there that's not something that's a nice sort.
Charlie, I have two questions. Are you going to have to relocate that sculpture of that osprey? And my next question is, how's that sign lit? Is there any LED involved?
No, sir, it is a non-illuminated sign.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there was any peripheral lighting thought about or planned for it, but as it's currently shown, it's non-illuminated.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
And to the Osprey, yeah, this existing Osprey, you know, it's to be determined if that's kind of in the view shed, right? But that we're not proposing to kind of change this current elliptical circulation, hardscape, and landscape area.
Thank you.
Yep. So, thoughts or concerns?
Question. Hello?
Yes.
I'm a little confused on the location of that. How is this, where is this in junction to Page Avenue?
Page Avenue is right here.
Where are you pointing?
To the right of the screen.
Okay.
So it's, you know, we're at Shore Drive here. Page Avenue's, you know, up on the east side here. So it'd be further back beyond Page Avenue.
Where Page Avenue and Shore Drive intersect? Where the stoplight is?
Yeah, but further back. We're probably, I don't know the exact distance, but we're pretty far back from the corner of the intersection there, and we'd be off from the right of way. There's proposed improvements here along Cherry Tree Place and Shore Drive today, right? So today, if you go out there, this is kind of a dirt kind of unused area, but it's going to be paved and turned into a right turn lane.
Oh,
on Cherry Tree. So if you can kind of see from the aerial, the driveway today is, there's 2 lanes, and it's a little more east here. But Page Avenue will essentially remain the same, and the sign's kind of off from Shore Drive quite a bit.
where that little park is?
Yeah, it's this little red. Can you see the screen here? It's this little red. Yeah.
Okay. Now I know where you are.
And behind that Austrian circle that's out there today.
I see. Okay.
I can probably pull up a screen, kind of a street view, if that would help. That would help everyone kind of visualize where it's proposed to go.
Yeah, this is Bob Magoon. The sign in its old place looks like it was up on a little bit of a knoll.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But in looking at that virtual elevation, which is no longer current, basically it's going to be forward of the corner of the building and concealing I assume that's a generator.
Generator, yep, correct.
And so it will have a lower profile. Well, it's only 5 feet. It looks like it was on a knoll that was probably about another 5 feet that would have elevated it significantly.
Right, there is a mount, yep.
Yeah, so I think the new position is much, much better than the old.
Are you able to, do you see my screen now? I can't tell with the.
I do, yes, I can see it. So
So yeah,
basically,
it would be down at this, level.
yeah.
And it would basically, it'd be nicely screening that equipment there. You'd still have, the views of the live oak, which is really nice sense of arrival too, that you're on the beach. So I think it'll be nestled in there nicely, have some nice landscaping behind it.
Okay. Much better position. Any other questions? Any other comments? So Mark, do we need to approve this? Mark, you're muted. Mark?
Yes, they came to the planning department to get on your agenda so you can make a ruling as to whether it's consistent with the Shore Drive design corridor design guidelines.
Yeah, and I have not focused on the design guidelines. Has this sign been reviewed and approved prior when the project was done? It's just the location, if I understand correctly, is.
Yeah, I don't think the sign itself, we need to amend the CUP first, and then we'll be going through the sign permit process to get that approved. So it hasn't been, it's both the sign and location that we're looking to get approved, but we first need to get the location approved before we can submit permitting for the sign design.
That is my understanding too, Robbie.
Yeah.
Mr. Magoon, if I can, this is Bobby Tahan, the planning director.
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to note that the reason why they're in front of you is, as it was noted, they do have to amend the conditional use permit that they currently have for the property. There is a condition in there that says that there shall be no freestanding sign for this property during the initial phase of development. Staff is unsure why that condition was there. Maybe they were having trouble placing a sign in a location that could be agreed upon previously, but staff has reviewed this and amenable to the changes in location and to assure that they're not blocking any sight lines and other things like that that may be of impact.
And the size?
I believe the size has been reviewed for consistency with the zoning district. So if not, it will have to be reduced and we'll bring it back if that's the case.
And in addition to the zoning requirements, the Shore Drive corridor design guidelines?
I don't believe staff has done that. It is a freestanding sign, so I'm unsure if there's typically we leave that to the BAC for your recommendation if it does meet that, the intent of the design guidelines.
The height of the sign is 5 feet, which is pretty, that would be typical. The length of the sign is almost 15, well, 12.
14 feet.
14 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm remiss in not having looked at it in the context of I thought it was the positioning of the sign, that the sign had previously been approved. Let me ask the applicant, how critical is it to have the approval now, or can we wait because I do want to review the design guidelines in the context of size now that it's not just position, it's size.
Jamie, have you I assume looked at some of that, or is that, I'm assuming it's in accordance with the guidelines, but
to the best of my knowledge, it is, Robbie, but obviously I've not looked at them probably as closely as I probably should have. My understanding that it does conform.
Yeah.
But I would kind of defer to the the group's decision on that.
It's kind of an awkward approval, but I mean, I'd be willing to approve it and then subject to a review of the Shore Drive corridor design guidelines for its size. The location, I think, is a wonderful improvement. But I want to make sure that we don't approve something that conflicts with any size requirements. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, today, just to amend the CUP, the location is more important. When we submit for the sign permit, that's when we can definitely, as well, you'll have that review and ability to comment and adjust the actual design of the sign itself. But for today, I think it's more important that we get this location approved to amend the CUP
Okay.
to allow us to move everything forward and then submit for sign permit.
And then
Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong there, but
so Mr. Magoon, it's probably technically you could probably say, well, I mean, the size is good, and the conditional use permit would approve the sign as designed. So, I mean, it may be in your interest to assure that it meets what you believe is the intent of the Bayfront Advisory Commission believes is the intent of the Shore Drive design guidelines. That's kind of the key purview for that, is we can use that for our staff recommendation to City Council. So the design is important for us to say whether the BAC agrees with that or not. And also, Waddell is on the call as well. I apologize, I kind of jumped in. He's the planning evaluation coordinator who also has this item. So if there's additional questions, he can step in as well.
I did pull up the page of the guidelines. It's page 22. It's very specific. It says monument signs. The overall dimensions of a monument sign shall not exceed 8 feet in height and 8 feet in width. It didn't say anything about length. I think the length is 14 feet, right?
Right.
Yes. Well, and I think that's the height. The height is fine. I do question the length, and I did not bring it up as an issue because I thought it had previously been reviewed and approved. But in light of that language, I would suggest that a sign of 8 feet in length would be consistent with that description.
I agree with you, Bob.
So the location is fine. I think the height is fine. The length, I think, needs to be consistent with the design guidelines.
Yeah, it doesn't speak to the
it
length.
doesn't say
though.
length. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, Jamie.
It's just 8 feet in height and 8 feet in width. The guidelines don't actually say what the length should be.
Well, it's the width is probably, I'm looking at the elevation, the width, they're saying 8 feet. I mean, we've only got three dimensions to work with. I think the intent was an 8 foot long sign.
Showing 14 feet, correct? 168 inches is 14 feet?
Yes.
Kind of big for my taste.
That's one of those things that we need to improve with the Shore Drive corridor design guidelines is the language. So I would suggest that the intent was 5 feet tall and 8 feet long. And the width would never be 8 by 8, but it's going to be a more narrow dimension, as is shown to the right of the front elevation of the sign.
Okay, Walt has his hands up. Do you have a comment, Walt?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So this site had a conditional rezoning, and there was a proffer that doesn't permit design placement to be placed along Shore Drive or Cherry Tree. I believe the decision back then was because of site obstruction. So they are doing a modification of proffers to eliminate that condition, to remove that proffer so that they can place the sign on Cherry Tree. the design guideline, like you say, for monument sign, it doesn't speak about the length of the monument sign. It's only speak about um, the height and the width. So if the commission, wants to make a recommendation for them to reduce the width from 14 down to 8, you can certainly make that recommendation. But again, that the width is not specified in the design guideline.
And I understand that, and that's something that we can improve when we update these design guidelines going forward. But there are only two dimensions that are given. One is 5 feet, one is 8 feet. And I suggest that it's the height and the width. And we need to, to me, it's kind of obvious, but my suggestion is that we could approve it if it was 5 feet tall, 8 feet long.
Bob, are you ready to take any comments from the public?
Wait a minute, I have a question. Bob,
Yes.
what are we going to do when the property next to them, the Point of Chesapeake, comes and says they're about to build 2 new buildings right next to Overture? What are we going to do when they say they also want to sign?
They'll get one.
Of course.
Yeah, the point is it going to be remote from the site, the building site?
It would be right where, if they wanted to do the same thing, this is not really next door. It's a little ways away.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that was just a question.
I would assume that their signage would be adjacent to the development.
Probably. It was just something that made me concerned that we have too many signs.
And it's important not to confuse the public when you approach a project. So this one looks comfortable, more comfortable where it's being proposed than it was originally, where it was originally shown. So is there anybody who wants to make a recommendation for approval?
Bob, I think someone from the public wants to comment.
Okay.
I think Todd Solomon has his hand up.
It's just a quick question, Bob. Thanks. That image you were showing with the plan view and the virtual, I assume somebody's going to readjust that virtual because the virtual doesn't show where the plan view actually has it being shown. You had mentioned moving it up and blocking the mechanical equipment, but it doesn't show it. So the virtual doesn't match the plan view. So I think somebody needs to change that at some point. See where you see it? I mean, that's way back there. So I would
back here,
right. I wouldn't submit that because that's wrong. But I mean, if you're planning to move it up forward, it would actually block the mechanical and prove your point. So
correct.
So
correct.
my suggestion is to change that. And Bob, I agree with you 100%. Nobody's going to make an 8-foot thick sign. So it's height and width and length. Width and length are the same. So if somebody makes an 8-foot sign, show me because they're just taking your money for bricks or whatever. Thanks.
But I think moving it off that knoll is good for everybody. So do we recommend, I'm going to recommend to, I'm not sure that I should make the motion as the presider of the meeting, but my recommendation to the BAC is that we generally approve the 5-foot height and an 8-foot long sign and approve the location.
Bob, I would agree.
Okay, do you want to make a motion To
Make
that
a motion to
effect?
concur with your recommendation.
Okay, do I have a second? Do I have
I'll
a second?
second.
Okay, who was that?
Stacy?
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I think that was it. So, okay, well, that's, that lesson learned is we need to improve the language to be more specific, but I know what the intent was. Okay, well, again, I apologize to the Overture group that I jumped right over them. So we can move now on to old business. And actually, Stacy, I'm going to let you talk just briefly about the Lynn Haven River Now discussion that we had. But last week, at the last meeting, there was a discussion about a grant program designed to help small businesses improve the physical space or add equipment. And that's a grant where the city would give up to $10,000 in matching funds or improvements. And there was some discussion about that, I believe, at the end of our meeting. And I was aware of the program because I had been, Billy Allman, who is on the Resort Advisory Commission, reached out to me to see if I would volunteer to help anybody in the Resort Advisory area, Commission area, if I would help them put together applications, design ideas, anything to help them complete their application to the city. And then Stacy brought it up at the end of the meeting, and I think I chimed in, and basically through the city, Froggies approached Stacy and me. Ultimately, I volunteered to help Froggies put together a submittal. We'll see where the grant application goes, but it was just an opportunity to bring some of that grant money to Shore Drive. And hopefully this will be a successful program going forward. And if Froggies gets this grant and is able to do what they propose doing, then others along the Shore Drive corridor may take advantage of the program if in fact it's offered up again. I will say that the Froggies has more ambitious plans than just the $20,000, the $10,000 grant from the city plus $10,000 that they would have to put up as a minimum. They're doing, they want to do some ambitious things, so we came up with a $20,000 submittal proposal, and then hopefully they will be coming forward to us in the future with a completion of their long-term plans. So that's just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on the BAC. It's something that applies not just to the Resort Advisory Commission area or the Bayfront Advisory Commission, but it's something available to people throughout the city of Virginia Beach.
Do you want me to talk about the Lynn Haven River now?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that and thinking, you know, if there's one improvement made, there's some additional matching funds, other businesses will recognize that and want to make improvements as well. And I was aware of a program that Lynn Haven River Now had. So we had a meeting with Karen Forget, and then I followed up with Vince, and we're going to look at a couple areas. He let me know down at the Vibe District, they've got a garden plan with native plants, and there's some matching funds that they can do for the landscape piece of it and provide design ideas utilizing native plants. So we're going to kind of Chicks Beach down like HK and Bowie, you know, kind of get a feel in a couple specific areas, maybe with Froggies and if Bucketheads, you know, to kind of look there, and then somewhere over on the other side, a group, maybe one of the strip malls or something, that would be interested in this, and put that together so Vince can talk to them and educate them and see what can be done. So everything will be looking good on there. And I can give a quote, the love sign. Mark and Nina, I guess there was a city meeting, and it's hopefully we'll have an answer by the end of the month and can get rolling on that. Mark, you might be able to give specific detail if needed, but
Sure. I will point out that we did take several staff members out to the site to look at it, and we, from a for inspection standpoint, they did not have a problem with it, and our risk manager did not have a problem with it as well. We do need to work it through the Parks and Recreation Department to get approval, because the surveyors did determine that the sign will be the structure would be located on park property, and I think I'll give it to Kay as well, because I think we may need to take it to you guys for official approval. Even though I know you approved of doing this, it's a similar kind of deal as a sign, so we'll have to talk
I got
about
a question
that.
for you. So
Yes.
that's when I saw you guys out there last week, right?
Yes.
So is that sign going to be facing Shore Drive, or is it going to be facing the other road there?
Shore Drive.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion on those items? Any new business? Hearing none, how about community reports, updates? Anybody? Okay, so
I'm sorry, Todd Salmon has his hand up.
Okay, Todd?
Sorry, I was trying to click my hand real quick to raise it. I didn't want to get skipped, but yeah, thanks. I appreciate. I don't know if this is an update or a question, or I don't know if you're going to talk about short-term rentals and things like that. So my quick update is on short-term rentals. If you hadn't followed it, the Planning Commission voted to support short-term rental overlays for East Shore Drive and North End, along with the oceanfront. So they reviewed that. They shrunk it. It's not the full-blown by right 400 homes that they suggested from Jim Wood's suggestion, but they still shrunk it. So it's still an overlay, and it's still being considered a resort destination, a tourist area, versus a resort community like your Shore Drive overlay or your Shore Drive corridor plan requires. So my thought there, and after talking with the couple of the commissioners, they told me that they were not legally allowed to remove East Shore Drive as a overlay. They said they had to leave it in there. So I think you need to kind of discuss that amongst yourselves too and figure that out. And I don't fully understand that. I think I see Kay shaking her head too, but that's what the chairman of the Planning Commission told me. He said he understood from legal that they were not allowed to remove North End and Cape Story, and that they had to keep them in. Otherwise, it would open up the floodgates for the rest of the city. That's what he told me Friday last week. So either he's completely confused or giving me a load of bull. One or the other. They need to figure that out. But anyways, we being Shore Drive Community Coalition, Cape Story also have said we don't want Cape Story as an overlay, period. Whether or not it's 400 homes, 200 homes, whittle it down to R5R, whatever, we should not have in perpetuity short-term rentals forever and ever and the rest of the city can get prohibited. That's our bottom line. So how you as the Bayfront Advisory Committee want to figure that out, you need to discuss that. And that's my initial, I'll drop off. That's the only thing I really have to talk about right now. So thanks.
Okay, before you say something, if I remember correctly, Jim Wood said that he was going to recommend that it be removed when it got to city council.
And Jim is online too. You could ask him, but we were concerned. His submittal was for by right 400 homes. So now that the planning commission has tweaked it, our concern was, okay, it's a second option. Would council be approving that versus what Jim supported? And we're, again, coming back and saying, we don't want an overlay, period, is what we're saying. And we're being told that legally you can't do that.
Kay has her hand up.
Hey, Planning Commission, of course they can't get rid of the Shore Drive overlay. That has nothing to do with short-term rentals. The Shore Drive overlay is still over everything. If they decide to do short-term rental overlays, they can do them. They can do them wherever. I see Mr. Wood, but what he told me was he would not support the East Shore Drive overlay. It will probably come up and it will probably be voted on, but he would not support it. What Planning Commission did is it used to run from Cape Henry Drive to the ocean and then roughly to Great Neck Road. And now they have suggested that it only be the bay side, that it would run from Shore Drive to the ocean. So that's really what they have suggested there. It would not be a permitted use. It would be a conditional use according to the Planning Commission. They also have a density limit that is what the density is now. And they could have one rental contract per 7 consecutive days. Same thing with the north end. There's already a north end overlay that stays. The north end short-term rental overlay goes with it. We don't get rid of the north end overlay. It all just combines up. Okay, so that's what we have there, and that would be 1 for 7 days. That's a conditional use permit. The only one place where it will be permitted is the resort tourist districts, which we have scattered those because what really happened was that the Oceanfront Resort got rid of the RTs. And so we're going to pull in the little RTs, and the OR, anything that is zoned OR would be a permitted use. Okay, that's the only place, and it would be a prohibited use in the rest of the city. Okay, if you have questions, call me. I can figure out, we can get you a copy or whatever you'd like to have. Thank you. Mr. Wood.
Yeah, can I address that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Basically, what Kay and Todd both said is correct. I don't plan to move forward with the short-term rentals being permitted in Eastern Shore Drive. So I understand where Kay's talking about the removal of the overlay, and obviously we wouldn't remove the overlay. But, in terms of permitting short-term rentals, I'm not going to support that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing.
Sorry, Bob, real quick. My comment was, and I didn't think anybody was talking about removing the entire Shore Drive overlay. My thought was Planning Commission was tasked to remove the East Shore Drive short-term rental overlay as proposed. Council never proposed removing the entire overlay for Shore Drive. So how that all works out, if one's attached to the other, that seems ridiculous. But to me, it was, if Planning Commission could have recommended removal of the East Shore Drive short-term rental overlay, which was a part of the Shore Drive overlay. That's what I was thinking. They didn't think they could do that, so they left it in and said we have to abide by this request for a double overlay, so to speak, or whatever. So sorry if that was confusing, but that seemed ridiculous.
Okay, I don't see any hands up now. So if there are no more, aren't any more community reports or updates, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I've got one comment, if I could, please.
Okay.
My name's Jeff. I'm a resident of Harborview Condos on Page Avenue. And to the point, Point Chesapeake already has a beautiful entrance sign near the main entrance adjacent to the public beach fest. So Point Chesapeake has a great looking sign.
Okay. Thank you. That was, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Kept you 14 minutes longer.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too, everybody.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody.